Tonight, Boise State and UNLV play in what has become the most highly anticipated matchup between two Group of Five programs all year long. And I think that rather than just talk about Ashton Jeanty winning the Heisman Trophy, I would like to talk about Ashton Jeanty, period, and UNLV and what they might be facing, period. So I think it's important to start with just what he has done, regardless of what everybody else is doing. And the way that I like to look at this is Ashton Jeanty was an outstanding tailback in 2023. We're talking about a guy who had 220 touches, 220 rushes for 1,347 yards and about 6 yards per carry, right? Outstanding 19 TDs. This year, he's just been nuts. Through 6 games and 126 touches, we're talking about 1,248 rush yards. That's 9.9 yards per carry and 18 TDs. So he's on pace to get close to Barry Sanders' single season rushing record of 2,600 yards, 2,648, right? Given that you're going to play 12 games, given that probably going to play in the Group of Five Mountain West Championship, and maybe make the playoff, it is entirely within reach for him to get to that number. I still got to say, man, that's a lot. It's gaudy. But taking a look at what he's just done in the last 5 games, he had 192 against Oregon. He had 127 against Portland State. They pulled him. He had 259 against Washington State, in which he was running against 8-man boxes, sometimes 9-man boxes, and still gashing that defense for 10 yards per carry. Utah State, he had 13 attempts for 186 yards. And then against Hawaii, he had 31 carries for 217 yards. I think the only difference between what Ashton Jeanty is doing now and what Barry Sanders did then is there's a couple 300-yard rushing performances in there for Barry Sanders in that almighty season he had in 1988 where Mike Gundy just needed to exist between the snap and handing Barry the ball and getting out of the way. That is what it is like to watch Boise State's Ashton Jeanty play ball this year. He is a lot of fun. And to watch him run the ball also harkens back to a time when running backs were the star players in the sport. Here of late, it's much more quarterback friendly. It's much more wide receiver friendly. But at the time that Barry Sanders was still playing tailback, people were still trying to take your head off. And there was no such thing as, a penalty for horse collaring. And there was no such thing as targeting. You couldn't touch Barry Sanders because he wasn't going to let you get close enough to touch him. Ashton Jeanty can both run away from you and run through you, and that's a lot of fun. It also is a different sport, right? Playing a different sport today. I also think UNLV is in a really interesting spot because this game is at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, and they've had to open up part of the seating that they would not normally sell to accommodate the audience because there are a lot of people that are going to be in Vegas for this game, both to watch Ashton Jeanty and to watch what is a one-loss UNLV team that has been in headlines from everything to what the starting quarterback was offered and what he did not get and choosing to leave the program, how they responded with another outstanding quarterback, and what that has meant for Brennan Marion and his star as an offensive coordinator. Brennan Marion, who I went to school with at the University of Tulsa, outstanding wide receiver at that time. There's a lot of people that just don't remember Brennan was one of the best wide receivers in the entire sport before injury. Like, he was that dude. And then he goes into coaching. And he starts to make his name, not just as a offensive coordinator, creating an entirely new offense that is dependent on no tight ends, right? You're running 3 to one side and 2 tailbacks most of the time, and you're going to take advantage of what the defense is giving you so that you can do anything you want from a fast break perspective where you have a for real point guard out there that is moving the football around. Outstanding job he did with Jaden Mayava and Ricky White last year. This year, Ricky White is becoming even more of a target, and that's the other guy that I think is being undersold here. Ricky White is all he down there somewhere. That dude is going to be open, and to keep him in check is a tremendous challenge for most defenses. But Brennan will find a way to scheme him open, and Brennan has made his name also as a wide receivers coach. You'll remember 2021 Pittsburgh wins the ACC championship with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. Kenny Pickett, not unlike Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr., existed to throw the ball to Jordan Addison and Mark Whipple's offense. Jordan Addison, outstanding player, transfers to USC. Kenny Pickett gets drafted to the Steelers, right? Then Brennan goes to wide receiver coach at Texas for a little bit, wants to call plays, goes to UNLV with Barry Odom, who has UNLV off to its best start in 40 years as a football program, And with a win against Boise State, they put themselves back into the top 25, I think, and in the pole position to win that group of 5 bid to the 12-team college football playoff. And that is for real at stake tonight, what we think is going to be the first of 2 games between 2 opponents in the Mountain West, because we think those 2 teams are going to end up the highest ranked among the group of 5, right? Especially with Liberty taking a loss to Kennesaw State. That's not a money in the bag game. That's a loss to a conference rival. Kennesaw State was winless, and then they got the win against Liberty, so we ain't got to talk about Liberty being undefeated anymore. And you kind of cleared the path there. Like, Memphis still has a road to get to this thing. I think Army and Navy absolutely positively have a road to get to the college football playoff. But right now, if the Boise State Broncos can dispatch the running Rebels, you got to believe that everybody wants to see Ashton Jeanty in the playoffs, no matter who it is they're playing against. And I am having a good time watching Ashton Jeanty play. Now that we have talked about Ashton Jeanty, and we have talked about just how good he is as a football player and the record that he is tracing, one of the things that I do want to point out is that Barry Sanders played in a Big 8 that is a much stronger league than the one that Ashton Jeanty is playing in. I also want to acknowledge a Heisman Trophy winner has not come from a traditional Group of 5 program in damn near 30 years, and it's usually a quarterback, right? Talking about like Ty Detmer. And if you want to take it back to one that is in the Group of 5 now, you got to take it all the way back to Navy with Roger Staubach. It's not about whether or not he is a great football player. It's about what Heisman voters have demonstrated. They don't care about Group of 5 players. They don't care about getting them a Heisman Trophy for damn sure. Jordan Lynch would have won a Heisman Trophy if they cared about Group of 5 players. We would be talking more about Bryson Daly at Army if we were talking about Group of 5 players. And on it goes, right? I also think that Ashton Jeanty has the fortune or misfortune, depending on how you want to look at it, of putting together a remarkable first half season in a season where Travis Hunter's playing both ways. And not just playing both ways, he is producing playing both ways. 51 catches, 604 yards, also 18 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. He has been everywhere. Lately, the thing that has been docking him has been he got hurt against Kansas State. They took him out, and he didn't play the second half against Arizona. The man is playing more football snaps than anybody else in America by a large margin. We have seen someone rush for 2,600 yards. Saw it 40 years ago, with Barry Sanders, okay? We have not seen someone catch 51 passes for over 600 yards with 2 interceptions in the same year. We haven't seen it. It doesn't happen. And the last time we saw somebody get close to it, there was no conversation about whether or not Charles Woodson was going to win the Heisman Trophy. He was going to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, the problem that Travis Hunter runs into is that Colorado is not 1997 Michigan. But they still do have a road to the Big 12 championship and to the college football playoff. All they need is for Iowa State or BYU to stumble and Kansas State perhaps to stumble. All those things are in play right now. But going into Friday night's game, you're also going to have a tremendous amount of eyes on you if you are the Boise State Broncos UNLV. A, it's a good game. B, you're going on after Dodgers-Yankees, which is the first time in my life that we've ever got to see Dodgers-Yankees, and I have not been loud about this, but I love baseball. I've always loved baseball, and I've always wanted to see this series played out. And I'm grateful that Boise State UNLV is going to kick off at, 9:30, and then USC Rutgers after Dodgers-Yankees Game 1 of the World Series, because I'm going to give my entire body to that series because it means that much to me. I caught in high school. I've been a catcher since I was 8 years old. I love everything about this series. I love everything about what Shohei Ohtani, what a freak, man. But that's the thing, right? We've never seen what Shohei Ohtani is doing. So there's no discussion about who the greatest baseball player in the world is, and perhaps ever, in the way that we're having one about Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter. I don't think this is debatable this year, man. Travis Hunter's doing stuff we've never seen before. And that, in and of itself, should be enough to win him the Heisman Trophy. But I tell you what, man. If Ashton Jeanty rushes for 3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, sure, okay. My Monique voice, I would like to see it.